you guys, welcome back to my channel. Are you ready to unlock the secret to living a healthier lifestyle while still enjoying your favorite treats? Well, get your calorie caps on because today we're spilling the beans on calorie tracking 101. Whether you want to shed a few pounds, stay in shape, build the body of your dreams, or simply just be a little bit overall healthier, calorie tracking is the game changer that you need. So let's dive right in. Let's start this off by looking at what calorie tracking and a calorie actually is. A calorie is a unit of energy. And in the context of food, calories are what fuel our body. Now you might have noticed that sometimes calorie tracking gets a bad rep, and that's usually because most of the people who are tracking their calories are stuck in a deficit. However, calorie tracking is not an inherently unhealthy process. It's actually so incredibly beneficial, and what is unhealthy is your relationship or mindset with it. If you associated calorie tracking with eating more, which most of you need to do, and simply just being aware of your nutrient intake, you would have such a better relationship with calorie tracking. There are so many benefits to calorie tracking. To start off, it helps you understand what and how much you're actually eating. It helps you see if you have food sensitivities, it helps you stay accountable, and it also gives you the opportunity to reflect on the week. So you might be wondering, who is calorie tracking for? Everybody. Within reason. Take that with a grain of salt, because those of you who have a very unhealthy relationship with food or tracking should focus on healing that before diving into tracking itself. However, I will say diving into the challenges and discomfort you feel with tracking is a really great way to grow. Calorie tracking is especially important for those of you who have not tracked your calories before. Chances are, if you've never tracked your calories before, you probably have no idea what is actually in the food that you're eating. I mean, I've had times where I track something and I see the breakdown in MyFitnessPal and I'm like, what the heck? I didn't know this had that much fat in it. I didn't know this had X, Y, and Z. And it's such an eye-opening experience. You probably also have no idea how big your portions are. That spoonful of peanut butter is most definitely not just a tablespoon. You're probably having a lot more than you think, and that could be contributing to that unexpected weight gain. You also probably have no idea how much you're actually eating in a given day or a given week. You might think you're massively overeating when in reality, you're undereating, and that's why you're gaining so much weight, because your metabolism has slowed down. But without tracking your calories, you would have never known that. Without understanding your portions, what's in your food, and how much you're actually eating, it's gonna be incredibly difficult for you to reach your goals. Now let's get into how to actually track your calories. The first step is to download a tracking app. My favorites are Cronometer and MyFitnessPal. When you first set up your account, it will give you a calorie goal. If you're using MyFitnessPal, do not use this calorie goal. Cronometer is a lot closer to what you should actually be eating. MyFitnessPal is always wrong. If you want help figuring out what your calorie goal should be, leave a comment with your social media handle and I'll help you find out for free. Now, when you're in the app, you'll see a section that says calories burned. Do not pay attention to the calories burned. Calories burned is incredibly inaccurate. Do not use it. Now we need to take a look at what to actually track. When you look at these apps, they will have a breakdown of your calories into your macronutrients and even some of your micronutrients. Your macronutrients are going to be the most important thing to focus on: your proteins, fats, and carbs. And don't forget your calories. While you don't need to hit these macro or calorie targets exactly, you do need to be close. I usually suggest within a 10-gram range and at least within 50 calories. When you are paying attention to these numbers, it is incredibly crucial to at least hit your protein target. You want to shoot for your goal body weight in grams, unless you have a lot of weight to lose, which you can then shoot for your goal body weight in grams. Some other measures that you can also pay attention to are your fiber and sugars. Now that you've gotten a little familiar with the app and you know what to track, I'm gonna walk you through how to track. For the first week you start tracking your calories, do not change a single thing about your nutrition. I know it's hard when you go into MyFitnessPal or Cronometer, you see all the numbers as you're tracking and you're like, oh shoot, I should probably change this. Don't change anything. And this is incredibly important because this is what we're gonna get, as I call it, your baseline. And if we don't understand your baseline, we don't know our starting point, and that's gonna affect how you're going to make progress and where you're gonna go from there. What I want you to do is track your week as you normally would. So input the things that you would eat on a normal daily basis without changing anything. Every time you take a break or stop tracking, you will need to go through this process again, because it's very likely that your calorie intake has changed, and if we go into a goal, it might be inaccurate. Once you've got your baseline, you can go into the recommendations that I have provided for you. Remember, if you want those, just leave a comment and I'll help you. Now, it's really important when you're tracking to make sure that you're tracking everything as accurately as possible. Pay attention to the food that you have in front of you and the food that you're tracking on the app. If they're not the same thing, that's gonna cause some discrepancies. So make sure if the food that you're using is raw, you're tracking it raw. If it's cooked, make sure it's cooked. This is very important with pastas and chicken and rice and things like that. When you're going out to eat, I know it can be a little challenging to track, but do your best to input the things that are within the meal that you're having. A lot of restaurants will actually have their nutrition info on MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, but if you can't find it in there, try to pick something that's close to what you're eating. Now, I want you to track every single day. This is gonna be incredibly beneficial, and it only works if you're tracking 100% of the time, every single day. But I do also want to mention, don't get caught up in perfectionism. It doesn't need to be perfect. As much as I want you to make this accurate, I don't want you to get caught up in having every single thing perfectly input to the T, weighed to the gram. It's not rocket science, and it doesn't need to be something that's making you even more stressed out. So do your best, but don't get caught up in being perfect. Always make sure that you're using the green check items. That means it's USDA certified and not just a random entry that someone else put in. So when you're looking at your totals for your macronutrients or your calories, you want to be looking at them on a weekly basis, not a daily basis. If you're looking at daily totals, it can get really overwhelming to feel like you're going way over your calories or way under your calories. That's why we take weekly averages of your protein, fats, carbs, and calories. You can look at them on a daily basis, but don't put too much emphasis on them. For example, if your calorie goal is 1,800 calories, you can have varying calorie intakes throughout the week that add up to be 1,800. It doesn't have to be 1,800 every single day. So if you go under, you can always eat a little bit over. If you go over, you can always eat a little bit under. Where most people get stumped when it comes to tracking their calories is either with tracking food from at home, at a restaurant, thinking that it takes a lot of time to track, and or trying to be perfect with it. So we're gonna bust all of those myths right now. One of the most helpful and easy things you can do when it comes to tracking food from home or at a restaurant is to use the create a recipe function. That way you can input all of the ingredients in your meal and save that so you can use it for later. When it comes to tracking foods outside at a restaurant, always do this beforehand so you know what you're getting into before you actually input your calories for the day. Most places will have their nutrition information online, but if they don't, you can always just find something that's similar to that meal. Now let's debunk the myth that it takes a long time to track. In reality, it does not. It only takes a few minutes for you to track your meal. It is not time consuming. Stop telling yourself that it is, because that's what's holding you back from reaching your goals. Not to mention, you don't have to be perfect with it. It's okay if your calories are a little bit inaccurate. It's okay if you're not reaching your goals exactly to a T. Don't get caught up in that perfectionist mindset, because that's just gonna stop you from taking any action at all. And imperfect action is better than no action. Now, you might have been watching this thinking, well, I don't wanna track for the rest of my life. And girl, I don't want you to track for the rest of your life either. That is incredibly unrealistic. So once you found out what your maintenance is and you've tracked your calories at your maintenance for some time, you understand what it looks like, that's when you can stop tracking, but only once you've achieved that. You really need to have a true understanding of what maintenance looks like. Otherwise, you're gonna be eating in a deficit forever, or your calories are just gonna be all over the place. You can use calorie tracking as a tool, like if you're implementing a new ingredient you've never used before, or if you just wanna simply track your protein. I mean, that's something that I do on a daily basis, is I keep track of my protein intake. I don't put anything into a calorie tracking app. I'm just adding up my totals throughout the day. If you don't have a very specific goal that you're trying to aim for, like weight loss or building muscle, you don't necessarily need to track your calories, but that's where it can be incredibly beneficial, is giving you that structure that you need. If you guys are curious on how to actually use MyFitnessPal, I do have a tips and tricks video in my free Facebook group, so if you're interested in joining, click that first link in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video.